Welcome to NTD News. I'm Kevin Hogan. Here are today's top stories. Fox host Larry Kudlow says U.S. adversaries are testing President Biden and waiting to see what he'll do about the recent cyber attack and fighting in the Middle East. Democrat lawmakers in Washington taking steps to restrict access to homemade firearms. It's the latest move in their gun control effort. All this while a federal judge throws out the NRA's bankruptcy case. But why? Democrats and Republicans are talking about what to include in Biden's infrastructure bill, but can they agree on what counts as infrastructure? Senator Rand Paul grills Dr. Anthony Fauci about the origins of the virus. He asks why American money funded the Chinese lab at the center of pandemic controversy. 20 Republican governors sign a letter to President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris about the border crisis. We look at what they're asking for. House Republicans removed Congresswoman Liz Cheney from her leadership position after a vote. They're hoping someone focused on party unity can take her place as House GOP conference chair. CBS News says the closed-door voice vote took about 20 minutes. After her removal, Cheney pledged to keep former President Trump from ever taking back the presidency. Her nonstop criticism of Trump contributed to her ousting in the first place. Most Republicans see her as divisive and disruptive to the GOP's quest to win more congressional seats in the 2022 election. A new House Republican conference chair will be elected at a later date. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik from New York is the only one campaigning for the position so far. President Trump criticized Cheney in a statement about the vote. The Israeli Defense Forces, or IDF, said Israel carried out hundreds of airstrikes in Gaza. That's after Palestinian militants fired rockets into 2 Israeli cities. The IDF wrote on Twitter, "Terrorists in Gaza are firing a barrage of rockets into southern Israel." In later tweets, the IDF confirmed that it targeted a number of points held by the Hamas terrorist group. At the same time, Hamas told media outlets that it fired more than 200 rockets into Beersheba and Tel Aviv overnight in response to IDF airstrikes. Those include strikes that collapsed a Gaza tower building. The United Nations envoy warned of a large-scale conflict. Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz said the Israeli military will continue to attack until the situation grows quiet and that no end date has been set. The Times of Israel reports that IDF officials expect more rocket fire into Israel after 6 Hamas commanders were killed. And Fox host Larry Kudlow says he believes the airstrikes are connected to the recent cyber attack on Colonial Pipeline. He says U.S. adversaries are testing Biden to see what he'll do. NTD's Jessica Beatty reports.
Cyber hackers are, in fact, Russian cyber hackers.
Fox host Larry Kudlow said Tuesday he believes the recent cyber attack on Colonial Pipeline is connected to what's happening in the Middle East.
I believe the cyber hacking in the U.S. Southeast is absolutely linked to the Hamas shooting war on Israel. Okay? I see it all of a piece, and President Biden is being tested.
He claims that the cyber hackers are Russian. He also says Russia backs Iran, which is connected to Hamas, and that China also finances Iran. They're all connected. Kudlow says new presidents get tested all the time, and so far, he says Biden is just taking the punches.
Do you swear that the
And the top U.S. cybersecurity official warned a Senate committee Tuesday of more aggressive ransomware attacks on U.S. infrastructure.
Malicious cyber actors today are dedicating time and resources towards researching, stealing, and exploiting vulnerabilities, using more complex attacks to avoid detection, and developing new techniques to target information and communications technology supply chains.
He said the SolarWinds hack earlier this year should have been a wake-up call. Now, after the cyber attack on Colonial Pipeline, he says the U.S. needs updated cybersecurity systems and more funding.
We must rethink our approach to cybersecurity. But as the pace and scale of cyber threats that we face expands, so must our response toolkit. We need sustained investment to modernize and protect our most critical federal systems.
The pipeline hack has led to gas shortages in the Southeast. In response, the governors of Virginia, Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina declared states of emergency. The Biden administration projected that the pipeline will restart in a few days. It urges drivers not to hoard gas. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
A U.S. senator and representative have reintroduced a bill to ban ghost guns. That's as a federal judge throws out the NRA's bankruptcy case. That leaves the gun rights group subject to a lawsuit from the state of New York. Here's more.
Senator Richard Blumenthal reintroduced the Untraceable Firearms Act in the Senate. It would cause the federal government to recognize homemade guns called ghost guns as firearms.
There is nothing ghost-like about ghost guns. They look like guns, they shoot like guns, they kill like guns. They are guns, except under federal law.
The bill would require people buying the gun kit to have a background check, and it would require the sellers to have a license and put a serial number on the frame. Senator Cruz suggests the move is part of a larger anti-gun agenda.
The next step is confiscation, and numerous Democrats on this committee have advocated for confiscating firearms. At home, Heidi and I own firearms. There is no government list of the firearms we own, and I'm very glad there's no government list of the firearms we own.
A federal judge in Texas has dismissed the National Rifle Association's bankruptcy case. This leaves the gun rights advocacy group to file a lawsuit from the state of New York. The lawsuit accuses the NRA of financial abuses and is attempting to put it out of business.
Weeks of testimony have demonstrated that the NRA and its leadership simply filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy to avoid accountability.
The CEO of the NRA responded to the announcement of the lawsuit, saying the NRA is well-governed, financially solvent, and committed to good governance. The bankruptcy case is over whether the NRA can incorporate in Texas instead of New York. The judge said the court views the NRA's case as a way to get out of litigation, instead of it having trouble paying off its debts. We reached out to the NRA, but haven't heard back yet. If the NRA were to file for bankruptcy, that may have helped it to reincorporate.
During a Senate hearing on the pandemic response, Senator Rand Paul asked several questions about the origin of the CCP virus that led to a tense moment between him and Dr. Anthony Fauci.
I do not have any accounting of what the Chinese may have done, and I'm fully in favor of any further investigation of what went on in China. However, I will repeat again, the NIH and NIAID categorically has not funded gain-of-function research to be conducted in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
You supported it, and you have allowed it here. We have a committee to do it, but the committee has granted every exemption.
Paul continued to press Fauci about whether U.S. health agencies under his leadership could have funded the risky Chinese research that may have led to the outbreak. Fauci strongly denied this. According to federal records published online, the NIH, which oversees Fauci's agency, provided $3.7 million to EcoHealth Alliance. That group conducted research of genetic analyses of bat coronaviruses and how they could spread to humans. The Trump administration terminated the EcoHealth grant last year. Paul also asked Fauci about allegations that an American virologist worked at the lab in Wuhan, China, conducting work that would make pathogens more deadly or easily transmittable. Theories say the CCP virus leaked from the Wuhan lab. The lab is a few miles from where the virus outbreak was said to have first been detected. But EcoHealth Alliance has maintained that a Wuhan lab leak isn't the cause of the pandemic. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey signed a bill to update mail-in voting eligibility requirements. In a letter, he said it seeks to protect the integrity of elections. The new law centers on early voting system. It aims to make sure only active voters who wish to vote by mail in elections are named on the state's active early voting list. Voters who don't return at least one early ballot over the course of 4 years will be sent a postcard asking whether they wish to stay on the list. They may also get the message via telephone, text message, or email. If they don't respond, then they could be removed from the list. Voters who are removed will be allowed to reapply. One state senator said the initiative simply removes non-voters. Critics say the policy will make voting more difficult for occasional voters, lower-income voters, and people of color. A 3-person team starts an audit into the 2020 election. The small New Hampshire town of roughly 15,000 saw major discrepancies in their ballot vote numbers after a hand recount. The team in Windham will examine ballot counting machines and their memory cards, as well as the hand tabulation of ballots. The town is investigating ballots from the general election, the State House of Representatives race, as well as from gubernatorial and Senate races. A previous hand recount for State House candidates in the district were hundreds of votes off from the original tally. The Windham Town Council told the New Hampshire Attorney General last year that the magnitude of error was shocking to local town officials. One of the candidates requested the audit. She said that the machines might have been programmed improperly or that a lot of ballots were double counted. President Joe Biden is set to meet with Republicans this week to talk about funding an infrastructure package, though the two sides have a long way to go before they can agree on a proposal.
Republicans are planning to sit down and discuss an infrastructure plan with Biden this week. Senate Republicans say they want a traditional infrastructure bill that doesn't raise taxes.
We are coming with a good faith offer, and we're hoping to find common ground on things that the American people would think of as infrastructure: roads, bridges, ports, airports, waterways, and of course in the 21st century, high-speed broadband.
Senator Joni Ernst says they have a good plan, and she hopes Biden is willing to work with them.
So we do have a very well thought through plan that's being proposed by the Republicans. I'm so excited. We have key members that will be meeting with President Biden later this week, and I do hope that he is negotiating in good faith.
Biden's original infrastructure plan includes funding for childcare, elder care, education, and other social programs. Though Democrat Senator Elizabeth Warren says it doesn't go far enough. She wants universal government-funded childcare to be included, too.
Now we got to negotiate to the right number. We got to make it universal, available to all of our parents.
She says Biden's proposal should assign even more funding for childcare. But Republicans say they won't support more spending on social programs.
We have no appetite at all for what the Democrats refer to as soft infrastructure.
Senator Joe Manchin already met with Biden this week. He's a crucial swing vote for any proposed infrastructure package, and says he wants to follow a bipartisan process.
He's put his plan out there, and I think in good faith we start working and finding out through a process where it goes into the committee, comes to the floor with amendments, and see what we end up with.
Manchin already said that he won't support a plan that cuts out Republicans. If he holds that position, any infrastructure bill will have to get 60 votes in the Senate, including at least 10 Republicans.
Some governors are ending unemployment benefits. Tennessee and Iowa joined the growing list of states saying no to federal aid. This comes amid concerns that the benefits are leading to a shortage of people looking for work. NTD's Christina Kim reports.
Alabama's Governor Kay Ivey joined a growing list of Republican governors to end the federal $300 unemployment boost during the pandemic. The federal support is in addition to state benefits. It was set to last until September. But starting June 19th, Alabama won't participate. Governor Ivey says Alabama's unemployment rate is 3.8%, the lowest in the Southeast and significantly lower than the national rate. She says it's time to get back to work, and what was meant to be short-term relief is adding to a labor shortage. Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, and South Carolina agree. Mississippi and Missouri are set to drop out the earliest on June 12th. South Carolina's governor is ending these programs beginning June 30th. He said these unemployment benefits are placing the United States on the road to socialism. He told Fox News' Tucker Carlson, getting back to work is how you build an economy, build a family, and everything else.
We're not going to take that unemployment money to pay people for not working. We got help wanted signs up everywhere. We get calls and letters and texts from people from all sorts of businesses all across the state. They're looking for people to work, and the people just won't come to work.
It's a similar situation in Arkansas. The governor said these benefits were helpful at the height of the pandemic when unemployment rates were astronomical. But now the situation is different. He'll be pulling out of the benefits on June 26th. Montana will be dropping out of the program on June 27th for the same reason. But U.S. Labor Secretary Marty Walsh criticized the move from Montana. He said choosing to eliminate these critical benefits will have the greatest impact on the most vulnerable. He says this will force families to choose between their health and their economic security. Christina Kim, NTD News.
A group of lawmakers are asking the FBI to reopen a 2017 shooting case. House Minority Whip Steve Scalise and other Republicans were on a baseball field when a left-wing extremist opened fire on them. The FBI initially concluded the tragedy was a case of suicide by cop, but the Republican lawmakers say it was actually a domestic violent extremism event. They say the conclusion isn't satisfactory and worry it leaves a blind spot in assessing the risks members of Congress continue to face. Their letter describes complaints of target practice at the attacker's home, an anti-Republican social media history, and a potential hit list of 6 Republican members of Congress. They say the FBI is either unwilling or unable to do a full investigation. A group of Republican governors write to President Joe Biden asking him to take immediate action to address the crisis at the southern border. They say the crisis is spreading to the whole country. A group of Republican governors write to President Joe Biden asking him to take immediate action to address the crisis at the southern border. They say the crisis is spreading to the whole country. 20 governors signed on to the letter addressed to Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. It says, contrary to statements from your administration, the border is neither closed nor secure. The letter says that the number of migrants crossing the border is now the highest in nearly 20 years, and that the president's policies are what's bringing them in. Alejandro Mayorkas leads the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS. He blames the previous administration for the problem. He claims they inherited a broken system. Mayorkas says they have a plan to house unaccompanied minors. Earlier this month, DHS said they had only 677 children in their facilities. Democrat Representative Henry Cuellar says those numbers are misleading. The children have simply been transferred to another department with similar conditions. The governor's letter says the federal government is placing children into facilities in their states, but they don't have the resources to take care of them. It says the border crisis is also leading to a spike in drug trafficking and crime, putting Americans at risk. They write, "The last thing we need is a self-created crisis that exploits families, undermines public safety, and threatens our national security." The governors are asking for immediate help from the federal government. Biden placed Harris in charge of dealing with the crisis. She has not held a press conference about the issue or visited the border since he placed her in charge. 2 Trump administration officials are testifying before Congress today about the events of January 6th. They're former acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller and former acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen. They've released transcripts ahead of time of what they plan to say to the House Oversight Committee. Their speeches explain their actions and perspectives on that day. Notably, Miller emphasizes in his transcript he stands by every decision he made that day. Up next, a Hindu temple in New Jersey is accused of forced labor and luring workers overseas. Federal agents are investigating the claims, and now a lawsuit is underway. Minor league baseball team, the Ousts, get a new home stadium. We catch fans' reactions. Find out more here on NTD News. Leaders of a Hindu sect in New Jersey are facing a federal probe. They've been accused of forced labor practices and luring in workers from overseas. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
Federal agents launched the investigation on Tuesday. That's after workers at a Hindu temple in New Jersey claimed they were forced to build the structure. A lawsuit filed in federal court accuses the leaders of the Hindu sect known as BAPs of human trafficking and wage law violations.
It's shocking that this happens in our backyard, or really anywhere.
The suit claims more than 200 workers from marginalized communities in India were coerced into signing employment agreements, and that they were promised work at the Hindu temple in Robbinsville, outside Trenton. They traveled under R1 visas.
As the workers were coming here, BAPs told the government that they were coming as religious workers and as volunteers, where the workers truly were coming to do manual labor. And they were not coming as religious workers, and they were not volunteers.
The lawsuit alleges their passports were taken away once they arrived. It also says they were forced to work at the temple 12 to 13 hours a day and paid just $450 a month. That's roughly $1.20 per hour. According to the lawsuit, the workers lived in a fenced-in compound where their movements were monitored by cameras and guards. They were told that if they left, police would arrest them for not having their passports. The lawsuit names BAP's CEO Kanu Patel and several other individuals. The suit seeks unpaid wages, as well as unspecified compensation and disciplinary action. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
The minor league baseball team associated with the Boston Red Sox just got a new home stadium, and the fans sure are excited about it. NTD's Arian Pastar has the story.
We now pronounce Polar Park open.
Polar Park, the new home of the Ousts in Massachusetts, opened on Tuesday.
Oh, we're really excited to be here today, and it's going to be a fun day, and we're really excited about the game today.
The ballpark itself is ready, but construction is still underway in the surrounding areas. Polar Park got its name from the local company Polar Seltzer. NTD spoke with a representative from the company who was there for the opening game.
It's just nice to be outdoors, and we've been stuck inside for so long, and outdoors is where we must be. So.
The Ousts had planned to open Polar Park in April, but after the pandemic hit, MLB delayed the AAA season. The team on Tuesday celebrated an 8-5 win against the Syracuse Mets, making their long-awaited first home game all the sweeter. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Various parts of the U.S. are kickstarting celebrations for World Falun Dafa Day. Practitioners held demonstrations of the Falun Dafa meditation practice, and some of them played live music. NTD's Don Tran has the details.
From the streets of New York to the beaches of Florida, people across the country came together to celebrate World Falun Dafa Day. Rows upon rows of Falun Dafa practitioners demonstrated the 5 exercises, followed by live performances of classical Chinese music. The event marks a chance for practitioners to celebrate when Falun Dafa first came to the public.
For me, it's very important what keep me positive, what keep me in peace, what give me beauty of this. And a lot of wonderful events happened in my life after I started to practice it. And I'm very, very happy to be here and celebrate it and share it with everybody.
Falun Dafa, also called Falun Gong, is a peaceful meditation practice based on the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. It was first taught publicly by Mr. Li Hongzhi in 1992 in China, and more than 100 million people were practicing by 1999. Many event attendees said the practice has benefited them in different ways.
Practicing Falun Dafa helped me with my moral teachings by really letting me, for one, practice more of my compassion. So before I used to, argue a lot more than I do now. So now I think of other people's first before I do myself.
I feel as if I can express that easier. Sometimes when you're around certain people, it's hard to stay true to yourself. But now I'm able to really stand firm in my beliefs and make sure that I set my boundaries and maintain those boundaries no matter what.
I think it did really help me throughout college, and now that I'm in graduate school, I think I feel I feel very light and very carefree a lot of the time, not only because I do the meditation exercises that help me relieve stress, but I think, basing all my decisions and everything that I do in Falun Dafa and what it teaches me has really helped me, relieve myself a lot of these, worries and troubles that I see in a lot of my other friends.
Alongside its meditative exercises, Falun Dafa also features a collection of writings that help guide practitioners in their daily lives. Some practitioners said it's helped them make other breakthroughs.
Perhaps the biggest lesson I learned from Falun Dafa is to differentiate what is really important versus what is not so important, and also what is right from what is wrong.
The reason I was attracted to Dafa when I started reading the book, Joan Falun, was that everything made so much sense. That I know that's a cliche, but I found the answers of many questions that I had all my life.
What I realized was that in the kindness and compassion and forbearance, it gave me the ability to understand life at a much deeper level and become a much better person in my family, at work, everybody who I touched. It enabled me to get a much deeper understanding of life and my place in this whole play of the universe.
After a year of lockdowns, events celebrating Falun Dafa Day aim to spread hope for the future. World Falun Dafa Day officially takes place on May 13th. Don Tran, NTD News.
Still to come, San Francisco high school seniors are told they can return to class, but only for a day. Some say there's an ulterior motive for this decision. Researchers track a great white shark in the Atlantic Ocean. They hope to learn more about the animal's migratory habits. Stay tuned to find out more.
We're becoming more and more urban. We lose our connection with nature. This little girl lives in a world of natural beauty, nature all around her. Not everybody has this opportunity. Things are growing all around her, all sort of handmade things. The artist has portrayed a scene that is so comforting and so grounded that we can experience this ourselves. The artist himself has to be absolutely natural. And it's not easy to do because children are hard to paint. Birds are hard to paint. They don't sit still. This is quite an accomplishment, reflecting nature back to us. It's just a pure, natural painting.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
My text to emoji ratio has gotten a little out of hand.
A little?
Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
I felt accomplished after I got my diploma. Made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Seniors in San Francisco's public high schools are given the green light to go back to classrooms for in-person learning, but some say the move is a money grab. NTD's Eileen Ng has more on the story.
Graduation is about 3 weeks away, and San Francisco's public high school seniors can now go back to in-person learning. But here's the kicker, it's just for one day. The San Francisco Teachers Union announced that seniors have the choice to take classes on campus starting Friday, May 14th, the last day of instruction. But some are criticizing the school's decision to reopen their halls now. May 14th is also one day before the deadline to receive California's $2 billion grant for reopening classrooms. On top of that, San Francisco has some of the lowest COVID-19 cases. Susan Solomon, the president of United Educators of San Francisco, told ABC7 that the decision wasn't made earlier because they were busy finalizing the agreements with employees. But the interim executive director of Parents for Public Schools of San Francisco believes money was a motivation. The San Francisco Chronicle reports if students choose to go back, they'll have 2 staff members supervising them on activities like end-of-high school conversations or college and career exploration. Only 2 high school campuses will reportedly be available, meaning most students who do choose to return won't even be at their own school. There are about 4,000 high school seniors in the city, and it's not clear how many will take up this offer yet. Graduation ceremonies will be held outdoors. Eileen Ng, NTD News, California.
Memorial Day is just weeks away, and Americans are eager for the advent of summer this year. That's after being cooped up for more than a year during pandemic-related shutdowns. As for Memorial Day weekend travel plans, AAA says it expects 60% more travelers this year than last year. That amounts to more than 37 million people traveling 50 miles or more from home. AAA credits the expected travel increase on rising vaccination rates and higher consumer confidence. A 3,500-pound great white shark nicknamed Nikumi has been swimming in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, but her path is keeping researchers guessing. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
Nikumi is part of scientific organization Ousts' Global Shark Tracker study. She's the largest shark they've tagged, and researchers believe Nikumi is at least 50 years old.
We've known that white sharks live in the Atlantic, but actually the studies of the Atlantic population have been very sparse compared with other areas. So we at Ousts are trying to figure out the overall sort of the puzzle of their entire lives from birth to death.
The researchers attached a tracker to Nikumi's dorsal fin in October. The female spent time in the waters off the Carolinas, a spot where researchers believe the sharks mate. Later, she headed out to the open ocean. Great white sharks in this part of the world are known to give birth to their pups off New York's Long Island. Nukumi's last ping was on April 11th. Researchers believe she's hunting fish and squid in deep waters. If she's pregnant, she'll head to the waters off New York. Migratory patterns of white sharks from the western Atlantic Ocean are not well known. At first, researchers were excited that Nukumi may be heading to European waters. It would have been the first ever tracking of a shark crossing the Atlantic Ocean. Now they think she'll follow the same path another shark named Lydia took. Lydia did a U-turn in the middle of the Atlantic and headed back to the East Coast.
We're just, waiting for her next signal, her next phoning home, so she tells us where she is. But we would predict at this point that the next time she reappears, she'll probably be back over on the western side of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge.
But it's been weeks since Nukumi surfaced, and there's still a chance she could show up somewhere unexpected. OSearch says it has tagged over 400 animals since the program began. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
The first spacecraft ever to enter interstellar space is revealing new insights. According to a new study, it detects a persistent hum beyond our solar system. The spacecraft is called Voyager 1. Findings were published in the journal Nature Astronomy on Monday. They attribute the sound to plasma waves reverberating through space, changing in frequency based on surrounding density. Voyager 1 was built with special antennas to pick up these tones and transmit the information 14 billion miles back to Earth. The sounds have been collected since 2012. A Cornell University-led research team says they reveal a new way to measure densities in interstellar space. They explain it's creating a system to better map the space between the stars. Coming up, a leopard is still roaming about Chinese villages after escaping from a zoo. A total of 3 leopards ran away from the zoo last month. And a boy in Shanghai Disneyland punched an employee dressed as Winnie the Pooh, but Chinese media are avoiding the name Winnie the Pooh in their reports and are instead calling him by another name. More on NTD News. Beijing appears to be tightening its leash on Hong Kong's press freedoms as acts of violence against independent media outlets in the city increase. NTD's Juliet Song has more.
The U.S. State Department is condemning an attack against an Epoch Times reporter in Hong Kong. The Epoch Times newspaper is a multi-language news outlet operating around the globe. It's banned in mainland China but has a branch in Hong Kong. In an email, the State Department wrote, "Attacks against journalists are unacceptable and cannot be tolerated." It also urged authorities to complete a full investigation into the incident.
各位觀眾，大家好。
Reporter Sarah Liang works for the paper's Hong Kong branch. On Tuesday, a man wielding a softball hit Liang more than 10 times outside her apartment building before fleeing the area. The attack left bruises on both of her legs. The director of Hong Kong Epoch Times says Liang is now in recovery.
The doctor said she was badly beaten. Luckily, her bones weren't injured, and Liang is now receiving medical treatment.
Guo says she thinks the Chinese regime is behind the attack. She adds that the attack isn't a standalone incident.
Hong Kong Epoch Times has recently suffered a series of violent attacks.
Just last month, 4 men broke into the paper's printing facility, damaging machines and computers there. The facility has also endured 4 similar attacks in recent years. Guo points out that a pro-Beijing newspaper also launched a smear campaign against the publication.
Also, unidentified men followed our reporters and spied on us outside our printing press. Our employees' family members in China were also threatened. It's not a standalone incident, but a combination of threats, stalking, and smear campaigns.
She says the paper is attacked because it's one of just a few independent news outlets in the city. The paper's Hong Kong edition is known for its uncensored China coverage, often highlighting reports of the Chinese Communist regime's corruption and human rights abuse.
And under the current difficult circumstances, people really hope to see truthful reporting from the Epoch Times, and the Chinese regime is afraid to let people know the truth.
And it's not just the Epoch Times. The Chinese regime appears to be tightening its leash on the city's press freedom. Last month, authorities sentenced activist Jimmy Lai to 14 months in prison. Lai is an outspoken critic of Beijing and the founder of a pro-democracy newspaper. Guo says Epoch Times employees in Hong Kong are under mounting pressure.
It's media professionals' mission to report on what's happening locally. It's what they should do. And if Hong Kong loses freedom of speech, then Hong Kong would completely lose its value. The lives of the people of Hong Kong will also get more difficult. So if truthful reporting can deliver their voice, it's protection for the people there.
She says that's why, even though the pressure is huge, they're not willing to give up. Juliet Son, NTD News.
In response to the physical attack on the Epoch Times Hong Kong reporter, U.S. senators issued statements and calls to hold the Chinese Communist operatives accountable. U.S. Senator Rick Scott said in a statement, reports of attacks on free press are extremely concerning. Now more than ever, the United States must stand up for democracy and human rights and fight against Communist China's aggression and quest for global dominance. Congressman Greg Steube also condemns the attack, saying this attack is likely yet another egregious example of the Chinese Communist Party using violence to silence their critics in Hong Kong. The Chinese Communist operatives responsible for this attack need to be held accountable. He also commended how, despite having their printing press destroyed and their journalists targeted, the Epoch Times has never backed down from speaking the truth about the horrors of the CCP, and he applauded them for their bravery. 3 leopards escaped from a Chinese zoo, and one of them is still at large. But the zoo didn't announce their escape until after people spotted the big cats. NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us more on the story.
3 leopards have escaped from a zoo in eastern China. One of them is still at large. Chinese state-owned media CCTV reported on Monday that the big cat is wandering in nearby villages. The 3 leopards fled from the Hangzhou Safari Park on April 19th, but the zoo did not confirm their escape until 2 weeks later. That's after nearby villagers called the police after spotting cat-like animals. Local media say the zoo has come under fire for delaying the news about the escape. By last Saturday, authorities already captured 2 of the leopards. The zoo anesthetized and caught the first leopard 3 days after the escape. 17 days later, a search team of 4,000 people caught the second one. The 3rd leopard is somehow a lot harder to get. Multiple teams are trying to find traces of the big cat in the surrounding mountains. They used thermal imaging, but were still unable to locate the animal. Later, they used live chicken as baits, installed infrared camera monitors, and are watching the surroundings day and night. At the same time, they also released search dogs equipped with GPS. The search for the 3rd leopard is still ongoing. Local authorities have asked residents to stay alert, and the zoo remains closed. State-run news agency Xinhua reported that police have detained several zoo employees and have launched an investigation into the incident. Winnie the Pooh trended on Chinese social media. A Pooh-related topic got over 100 million views on Chinese social media platform Weibo alone. But the news soon disappeared from the list of trending topics, and the page could not be displayed. Related comment sections have also been shut down. The Chinese regime considers the Disney bear a sensitive figure. That's because many Chinese netizens use him as a euphemism for CCP leader Xi Jinping. The trend on social media started with a boy in Shanghai Disneyland. He recently punched an employee dressed as Winnie the Pooh. Many Chinese media reported on it, but all of them avoided referring to the bear as Winnie the Pooh. Instead, they used the puff bear. Winnie the Pooh has been one of the sensitive words in China since 2013. Chinese netizens compared photos of Xi and then U.S. President Obama walking side by side to Winnie the Pooh and his friend Tigger. The Chinese regime not only censors the name Winnie the Pooh, but also bans his photos from all Chinese social media. Beijing also blocked the 2013 Disney live-action film Christopher Robin featuring Winnie the Pooh. Chinese authorities did not explain why. U.S.-based former media professional Li Maozhen revealed that he used Pooh as his profile picture on Chinese social media. But his friends said they couldn't see his profile picture. Li previously told NTD when he worked for Chinese media, the CCP's propaganda department would issue bans every day. He had to filter all the news before publishing. If a media outlet posted an article that didn't meet the regime's requirements, authorities would remove the article or even shut down the website.
Just ahead, some virus patients in India contract a rare fungal infection. Health officials say over 2,000 cases reported. And a hobbyist in the Philippines boasts a unique collection with approximately 20,000 items. He's been collecting fast food toys since he was just 5 years old. Find out more here on NTD News.
If you're like most of us, you're probably getting fed up with the nonsense that's going on in the banking system. Did you know that top U.S. banks have recently amended their depositor terms and conditions to include the words bank failure and what's required of you in 24 hours if, or should I say when, it happens? Don't get blindsided by your bank. Call GSI Exchange today to pick up your complimentary copy of the Bank Failure Survival Guide at 866-424-2382. We'll also send you the required format to file with your bank within 24 hours of their failure, which is now required by the top banks to avoid freezing of your funds. Yes, the top banks can now freeze your money. The world is in a strange place, and banks are constantly changing the rules. So stay on top of the current events that really matter by calling GSI Exchange and requesting your free guide at 866-424-2382.
It's just clear as day. The media, whether it's broadcast, cable, or print media, has become extremely biased. And I started looking online for alternative ways to get information. And I saw an ad for a free trial. And I looked at it and I said, Epoch Times. I mean, come on, this is end of days type of stuff. I mean, what are they going to be talking about here? And I said, well, it's a free trial. Let me dig in. Is it giving me both sides? Is it giving me an objective point of view here? I have looked for opportunities to see where they might be biased, and I don't find it. It has given me a level of trust in media that I didn't think I'd ever get back. I love the Epoch Times because it has renewed my faith in the idea that a reliable, responsible, non-biased source of information is available. And I can say that I love it because of that.
India is reporting thousands of cases of a rare and deadly fungal infection. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more on that and a doctor's take on why COVID patients are contracting the disease.
You could call it adding insult to injury. India, already suffering from a terrible wave of COVID-19 infections, is now reporting disease of a different kind. Just a word of caution, here's a graphic image that could disturb you. This potentially deadly fungal disease is called mucormycosis, often called black fungus. According to Asian News International, or ANI, Maharashtra's health minister Rajesh Topi says over 2,000 people have contracted the disease, at least 8 have died. A doctor from Gujarat told the Indian Express that 99% of his patients infected with mucormycosis had COVID. Black fungus is a rare disease, and the CDC says it's been shown to have a more than 50% death rate.
In my career of 20 years as being a physician, I've probably seen this twice.
Dr. Roger Schult, a MedCram instructor, tells me the fungus that causes this is everywhere.
Why are COVID patients in India contracting this fungal infection while they're sick and even after they've recovered?
Well, this infection is a fungal infection that likes to invade, go into the tissue, and goes to where its resources are, which is in the blood vessels. This fungus is known as mucormycosis. It lives in the soil. It lives, it is all over the place. You can't avoid it. And in fact, in some people, it actually lives in the mucosal layer of their sinuses. But there's an interplay there where the immune system is able to keep it at bay and keep it suppressed.
He says high-dose steroids, sometimes given to COVID patients, could be driving up these infections.
We are treating patients with very high-dose steroids. High-dose steroids are well known to increase blood sugars and also well known to suppress the immune system. And those are the two major ingredients for mucor to invade the tissue and the blood system.
ANI reports that Maharashtra's health minister is making special wards for these patients. Topi also says that the state will pay for their treatment. India has reported around 4,000 COVID deaths every day for nearly a week. They're still reporting over 300,000 COVID cases daily, but over the past 3 days, that daily number has been falling. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
A couple in South London celebrate a remarkable year in building their own grocery business from scratch. Since the first lockdown last year, they've been working flat out to bring their dreams to reality. NTD's Neil Woodrow brings us their story.
Life partners Emma Soulsby and Lee Daly are also now partners in a business venture, the Magnificent Marrow. Both successful in the floral industry, Emma was due to have a floral installation for her first big celebrity wedding overseas, but then within a week and a half, both of them saw their regular jobs disappear as the first lockdown happened early in 2020. Then they decided to form a business together selling fresh produce. They haven't looked back. Lee talks about why they decided to start Magnificent Marrow.
To help people that were struggling to get food due to the first lockdown, and it was a sort of a success right from the start, really.
Initially, they worked from the back of a van doing 100 local deliveries a day during the lockdown. They soon needed a unit to work from and acquired one in Rains Park where they live. They started offering nationwide courier deliveries and after a few months opened the unit to customers on a Saturday.
We were getting up to sort of 100 people coming up, and so we decided to sort of find a local store.
Emma had previously built up 10,000 followers from the wedding world on Instagram and used them to help promote the business, plus some special friends.
All of the celebrities I'd worked with in the past, I was like, please, can you share this new business? And they did, and it was incredible.
Starting a business in lockdown wasn't easy. They couldn't get hold of printer ink, so Emma was handwriting delivery notes at midnight every night. As novice grocers, it's also been a steep learning curve.
This is quite enjoyable for other people, not myself, but understanding little things like potatoes and standing there in front of everybody at the market and they're asking me what size, and I'm just like, that size, I have no idea.
In the early days, they were also doing the deliveries themselves. Although they've moved on, life hasn't got any easier. They get up at 1 a.m, go to the market to buy produce for online orders, then back to the unit to pack the London delivery boxes to be collected at 6 a.m. Then it's off to the shop.
With our team, set up the shop, go home, have 2 hours sleep, get back up, and I'll then start on the wedding side of things.
Emma's wedding floral bookings are coming back, so while she works on those, Lee is working at the shop.
And then we will put the orders in for the shop about 6 o'clock while Lee is thankfully cooking our dinner, and then we crash about 8 o'clock, 8:30, and do it all over again the next day. 6 days a week.
They try to put customer service at the heart of the business.
Everyone that orders from us, everyone that emails us, everyone that gets in contact with us via Instagram or Facebook, it's so important to us. And
we give
single
a personal response.
Yeah.
Making strong connections with people helps them too.
When you make a mistake personally, it's hard to get over when you're so tired, but then you've got these amazing bits of these connections that we've made.
Yeah.
It just makes everything so much better.
They've now gone beyond their fruit and veg range to offer products from London-based artisan suppliers, including meat, bread, cakes and cheese. Gift hampers are also available. They are supported by a dozen staff who Emma says have their backs, and without them, they wouldn't have been able to achieve what they have. Going forward, Emma plans to continue with her wedding floral business as well as joining Lee to create more stores and expand the Magnificent Marrow grocery business. The number of regulars here is growing and the ranges too. When it comes to fruit and veg, they know their onions. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, Rains Park, London.
A hobbyist in the Philippines has amassed an impressive collection of fast food toys over almost 50 years. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
From the age of 5, Filipino graphic artist Percival Luge has had a passion for collecting toys, but not just any toys. He prefers those from fast food restaurant chains like McDonald's, Burger King, and home country favorite Jollibee. Now, the 50-year-old has about 20,000 toys packed from floor to ceiling in his home. He also holds a Guinness World Record from 2014. At the time, his collection surpassed 10,000 items.
As a young kid, I've already known myself to be putting them on display, on cabinets. Unlike the other kids who would really tear up their toys into smithereens.
Luge built his home especially to house his collection. He likens the excitement of getting new toys to Christmas morning. While he's collected most of them on his own, some were gifted by friends and family. He says he has no idea what the entire collection is worth. One of his most treasured pieces is a Hetty Spaghetti figurine, a mascot from the Jollibee chain that his mother gave him in 1988.
So the toy is like a storyteller in itself. Like, for example, it gives me a glimpse of that particular period when I got it, my story, what's going on, what are the incidents that are attached in the acquisition of that particular toy.
Luge hopes to eventually put his collection on display for the public, or even open a museum. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Your knees are critical joints that can stay strong for a lifetime with proper care. Here are 10 tips for how to age-proof your knees.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. Your knees are the workhorse joint of your body. They are considered to be your body's shock absorbers. With each step, they absorb 1.5 times the weight of your body, and when you run or jump, they absorb much more. It makes sense that your knees may be the first joint to act up as you age. However, knee pain doesn't have to be a foregone conclusion in your later days. Here are 10 ways to protect your knees and prevent the effects of aging. Number 1, keep moving. Exercise helps to strengthen the muscles that support your knees and keeps them loose and flexible. Number 2, maintain a healthy weight. An extra 20 pounds or more puts a great deal of stress on your knees. If you are overweight, know that even small reductions in your weight can make a difference in the health and function of your knees. Number 3, what you wear on your feet is important. Stable, well-fitting shoes with good support are what your knees want. Flip-flops offer no support and can be a direct cause of knee pain. High heels dramatically change your body's biomechanics, especially that of your knees and legs, and not in a good way. Number 4, strengthen the muscles that support your knees. Your quadriceps muscles on the front of your thigh and your hamstrings on the back are involved in the bending and straightening of your knee. These muscles run from your pelvis to below your knee. Strengthening those muscles plays an important role in preventing knee pain. Number 5, mix high and low impact exercises. While exercise is good in keeping your knees healthy, high impact activities can wear down cartilage, the fibrous connective tissue that acts as a cushion between your bones. High impact exercises such as tennis, basketball, running, jumping, and some cardio exercise classes help to maintain strong bones, but they can also prematurely age your knees. So what to do? A good strategy is to combine some higher impact activities with less bone-jarring exercise, such as cycling, walking, or swimming. Number 6, maintain the range of motion in your knees. This means the ability to both straighten and bend your knees to their full capacity. Putting your knees through their range of motion paces and helps avoid stiffness and loss of mobility as you age. Number 7, if you need to kneel, do so on a soft cushion or surface. Kneeling for extended periods of time on a hard surface can irritate or damage the small gel-filled protective cushions in your knees. Number 8, avoid standing on hard surfaces or squatting for long periods of time. Both are a recipe for knee pain and damage. Number 9, keep your knees healthy through your diet. Eat lots of vegetables, whole grains, and light proteins such as fish, and avoid processed foods and saturated fats. This will help keep inflammation at bay. And number 10, don't ignore knee pain. Think about acupuncture or physical therapy when it comes to your knees. Researchers have documented that acupuncture can be an effective treatment for many types of knee pain. The bottom line is that your knees will age as you age. However, with a little care, your knees can stay healthy as you age.
And that's all for now. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't miss out on important news. Our videos are being deleted. So if you don't want to be cut off from honest news, take a moment to sign up for our newsletter at newsletter.ntd.com so you don't lose access to NTD. Go to newsletter.ntd.com to sign up for our evening newsletter.